The stars had fallen one by one. For 200 years, the Dominion had moved through the galaxy like a plague of locusts. Their massive ships, black, angular vessels that seemed to devour light rather than reflect it, had visited 10,000 worlds. Each planet received the same message: join us or die. Most surrendered immediately. Those who resisted became cautionary tales, their worlds reduced to lifeless husks. Supreme Commander Vexhall stood on the command deck of the Dominion flagship, the inevitable conquest. His scaled skin gleamed under the blue lights as he studied the holographic display of their next target, a small solar system with 8 planets circling an unremarkable yellow star. Only the third planet showed signs of civilization. Earth, he said, rolling the strange word around in his mouth. Primitive, but rich in resources. Their technology is barely past the nuclear stage. They've sent only a few crewed vessels beyond their moon. His second-in-command, Subcommander Kraz, nodded respectfully. They will fall quickly, Supreme Commander. Our advanced scouts report minimal orbital defenses. Their military forces are divided by regional loyalties. Vexhall narrowed his 6 eyes. Do not underestimate any species, Kraz. The Arcturians seemed primitive too, yet they destroyed 3 of our destroyers before we broke them. Of course, Supreme Commander. We will proceed with standard caution protocols. Good. Begin the approach. I want their communication systems flooded with our surrender demands within 6 cycles. Across the vast emptiness of space, on the blue planet in question, Commander Jack Kelly stared at the satellite images with growing dread. The Dominion fleet had just passed the orbit of Saturn, moving with deliberate slowness, their engines leaving trails of exotic particles that Earth scientists couldn't identify. Kelly rubbed his tired eyes. At 45, he had spent his entire adult life in Earth's United Defense Force. He had fought in the water wars of 2037 and helped establish the first Mars colony. But nothing in his experience had prepared him for this. How many ships are we counting now? He asked the young officer operating the deep space tracking system. Over 200, sir, Lieutenant Frank Porter replied, ranging from what appear to be small fighters to 5 massive vessels, each roughly the size of Manhattan. Kelly nodded grimly. Earth's combined space fleet consisted of just 37 combat-capable ships, none larger than a destroyer. The math was simple and devastating. Any word from the diplomatic team? No response to any of our greeting messages, sir. The only transmission from them is this same repeating broadcast. Porter tapped a key, and a harsh metallic voice filled the command center. People of Earth. We are the Dominion. Your planet is now under our authority. Surrender your governments and military forces within 1 planetary rotation. Resistance will result in planetary sterilization. This is your only warning. Kelly's secure phone buzzed. The president was calling an emergency meeting of the Defense Council. He grabbed his jacket and headed for the door. Keep monitoring them. Lieutenant, alert me immediately if anything changes. Thousands of miles away, in a classified underground facility beneath the New Mexico desert, Dr. Lisa Martinez worked frantically to solve an impossible puzzle. Around her, dozens of scientists and engineers monitored complex equipment, their faces reflecting the blue glow of screens displaying data beyond current human understanding. Lisa had been working on the Leviathan project for 7 years. What had begun as an archaeological expedition to investigate strange readings on the ocean floor had turned into humanity's most closely guarded secret. Power fluctuations are stabilizing, called out Dr. Ben Howard, her chief physicist. The core is responding to the new algorithms. Lisa nodded, her dark hair falling across her face as she studied the readings. It's still not enough. We're missing something fundamental about how it works. The it in question lay in the enormous chamber beyond the observation room's reinforced glass wall. A massive shape, organic yet mechanical, filled the space. Parts of it resembled a ship's hull, with smooth, dark metal that seemed to shift and ripple like liquid when not directly observed. Other sections appeared almost biological, with structures resembling muscles and veins pulsing with soft blue light. They had discovered it 3 miles beneath the Pacific Ocean, buried in sediment. that dated back 5 million years. Yet the technology, if that was even the right word for it, was far beyond anything humanity could create. And now, with the Dominion fleet approaching, they were running out of time to unlock its secrets. Lisa's phone vibrated. The message was, brief. Turn on the news. She grabbed a remote and switched on the large screen on the wall. Every channel showed the same image, a massive black ship hovering over New York City. Smaller vessels surrounded it like worker bees around a hive. They're already here, Ben whispered. Lisa's phone rang again. It was General Wright from the Pentagon. Dr. Martinez, the President, is invoking Emergency Protocol Omega. You have full authorization to proceed with Project Leviathan, ready or not. Lisa took a deep breath. Sir, we still don't understand how to fully activate it, let alone control it. That's why we're sending you Captain Miller. His transport will arrive within the hour. Captain Miller? I don't understand. The artifact responded to his genetic profile more strongly than any other candidate we tested. If anyone can connect. With that thing, it's him. The line went dead. Lisa turned to her team. Everyone listen up, we're moving to activation phase. This is not a drill. As her team scrambled to prepare, Lisa couldn't help wondering who Captain Miller was and why this mysterious ancient vessel had chosen him. Captain Ethan Miller gazed out the helicopter window as they approached the New Mexico facility. At 35, he had spent most of his adult life in the Navy, commanding increasingly advanced ships. His last assignment had been the USS Defender, America's most advanced destroyer. But 3 weeks ago, he had been suddenly reassigned without explanation. A series of bizarre medical tests had followed, each more invasive than the last. Then, the aliens had arrived and everything had accelerated. The helicopter landed on a pad that immediately began descending underground. Armed guards escorted Miller through a series of security checkpoints until he reached a conference room where Admiral Sam Wright waited. Captain Miller, Wright said, extending his hand. Thank you for coming so quickly. Not like I had much choice, sir, Miller replied, shaking the Admiral's hand. With respect, I should be with my crew. The Defender is a frontline vessel, and from what I've seen on the news, we're at war. Wright's expression was grim. The Defender wouldn't last 5 minutes against those ships, son. None of our fleet would. That's why you're here. You're being reassigned to command a different vessel, one that might actually stand a chance. He pressed a button and one wall of the conference room slid away, revealing a massive observation window. Beyond it lay an enormous chamber housing what appeared to be some kind of ship, but unlike anything Miller had ever seen. Captain Miller, said Wright, meet the Leviathan, Earth's last hope. Captain Miller stared at the massive shape through the observation window. The Leviathan looked like no ship he had ever seen. Parts of it resembled a sleek submarine, while other sections appeared almost organic, with structures that pulsed with faint blue light. What exactly am I looking at, Admiral? Miller asked. Admiral Wright gestured for Miller to follow him to a small elevator. It's better if Dr. Martinez explains. She's been leading the project since the discovery. The elevator took them down to the main laboratory level. When the doors opened, Miller found himself in a bustling control room filled with scientists and military personnel working frantically at various stations. A woman with intense brown eyes and dark hair pulled back, in a tight ponytail approached them. Despite the chaos around her, she moved with calm purpose. Captain Miller, I'm Dr. Lisa Martinez. Her handshake was firm. We don't have much time, so I'll give you the short version. 7 years ago, a deep-sea research vessel detected strange energy readings coming from the Pacific Ocean floor. What we found buried there was this. She led Miller to a large display screen showing underwater footage of the Leviathan being excavated from the ocean floor. Carbon dating puts it at approximately 5 million years old, yet the technology is far beyond anything we can create today. We believe it's a biomechanical entity, part machine, part living organism. Miller frowned. You're saying this ship is alive? In a way, yes, Lisa replied. It's been dormant, but since we brought it here, it's shown increasing signs of awakening. And that's where you come in. She pulled up a series of brain scans on the screen. These are readings we took when various individuals were exposed to the ship's central control chamber. And this one, she pointed to a scan that showed significantly more activity, is yours. Miller studied the image. What does that mean? It means the ship responds to you, Admiral Wright said bluntly. We've tested thousands of candidates. No one else comes close to the connection you seem to have with it. A loud alarm suddenly blared through the facility. A young technician rushed over. Dr. Martinez, the Dominion fleet has entered Earth orbit. They're deploying ships to all major cities. Lisa's face paled. Sooner than we expected. Captain Miller, we need to get you into the ship now. Wait, Miller protested as they hurried toward a sealed doorway. I haven't been trained on how to operate this thing. Nobody has, Lisa said grimly as she pressed her palm against a scanner. That's what we're about to find out. Meanwhile, in New York City, panic spread through the streets as enormous black ships hovered above the skyline. Similar scenes played out in London, Beijing, Moscow, and dozens of other major cities across the globe. Commander Kelly watched the feeds from the Pentagon's Emergency Command Center. Governments worldwide were in disarray. Some had already announced their surrender. Others were deploying military forces in futile attempts to fight back. Sir, called a communications officer, we have incoming transmission from the Dominion flagship. The main screen flickered to life, revealing the alien face of Supreme Commander Vexhall. His 6 eyes blinked in sequence, and when he spoke, his voice was translated by computer into a metallic-sounding English. Your time is nearly expired. We detect military mobilization in several of your nations. This is unwise. To demonstrate our resolve, Vexhall made a gesture, and another screen showed a live feed of Chicago. A beam of intense green light shot down from one of the Dominion ships. Where it touched, buildings and streets simply disintegrated. Within seconds, a quarter of the city was gone, leaving only a perfectly circular crater. The next demonstration will erase an entire city. You have 2 hours remaining to surrender. The screen went dark. The command center was silent except for someone quietly sobbing in the background. General Wright's secure phone rang. He answered it, listened briefly, then looked at Kelly. Commander, we're activating the Leviathan. It's time for Plan B. In the New Mexico facility, Captain Miller stepped into the Leviathan's control chamber. The interior was nothing like conventional ship bridges. The walls were curved and seemed to glow with internal light. There were no obvious controls, screens, or equipment, just a raised platform in the center with a chair-like structure that looked as if it had grown naturally from the floor. What am I supposed to do? Miller asked, as Lisa and her team monitored from the laboratory. Sit in the control seat. Lisa's voice came through a speaker. Try to clear your mind and focus on connecting with the ship. Miller felt ridiculous as he lowered himself into the organic-looking chair. The moment he touched it, the chair seemed to mold itself to fit his body perfectly. The blue glow throughout the chamber intensified. Something's happening. Lisa's excited voice came through the speakers. The ship's energy readings are spiking. Miller felt a strange sensation, like pins and needles spreading across his skin. The walls around him seemed to become transparent, giving him a 360-degree view of the laboratory outside. Then, startlingly, he felt something touch his mind, an alien presence curious and ancient. Captain Miller, your vital signs are fluctuating, Lisa said, concern evident in her voice. What's happening in there? Miller struggled to find words. It's aware. I can feel it trying to communicate. Images flashed through his mind. Stars, planets, vast cosmic battles. His vision blurred as information poured into his consciousness faster than he could process it. The Leviathan was a guardian, he gasped, created to protect developing worlds from predatory species. Outside, the scientists watched in amazement as the ship began to change. Sections that had appeared dormant now pulsed with bright blue energy. The surface rippled like liquid metal. It's fully activating, Lisa whispered. After 5 million years. Inside the control chamber, Miller felt his awareness expanding, merging partially with the ship itself. He could sense every part of the massive vessel, feel its systems coming online. I understand now, he said, his voice stronger. I know how to pilot it. The entire facility shuddered as the Leviathan's engines powered up. Warning alarms blared as energy readings went off the charts. Captain, we haven't tested the propulsion systems, Lisa shouted over the intercom. We're not cleared for launch. Miller's hands moved over controls that hadn't been visible before, but now glowed beneath his touch. The Dominion is already here, Doctor. We're out of time. Above the facility, the ground split open as massive doors, disguised as part of the desert floor, slowly parted. The Leviathan rose from its underground chamber, its hull gleaming in the sunlight. Lieutenant Grace Taylor was flying a routine patrol in her F-35 fighter jet when her radar picked up the massive object rising from the New Mexico desert. Command, this is Eagle 3. I'm tracking an unidentified craft emerging from Sector 7. It's enormous. Eagle 3, maintain visual contact but keep your distance, came the response. That's a friendly. Taylor banked her jet to circle the mysterious vessel. It was unlike anything she'd ever seen. At least twice the size of an aircraft carrier, with an organic flowing design that seemed to shift as she watched. Blue energy pulsed beneath its dark surface. Inside the Leviathan, Miller felt a new presence. Looking through the ship's sensors, he spotted the fighter jet. This is Captain Ethan Miller aboard the ESS Leviathan to approaching aircraft. Identify yourself. Taylor was stunned to hear a human voice coming from the alien-looking ship. This is Lieutenant Grace Taylor, United States Air Force. Captain Miller, what exactly are you flying? Miller allowed himself a small smile. Earth's last hope, Lieutenant. And I could use a pilot of your skills. Care to come aboard? In orbit above Earth, Supreme Commander Vexhal received an urgent alert from his sensors officer. Supreme Commander, we're detecting an unknown energy signature launching from the planet's surface. It doesn't match any known Earth technology. Vexhal hissed in surprise when the readings appeared on his screen. Impossible, he whispered. It cannot be. Target all available weapons on that vessel. Destroy it immediately. The Dominion fleet turned its attention toward the approaching Leviathan, unaware that the battle about to begin would change the fate of Earth forever. The Leviathan rose through Earth's atmosphere, its dark hull gleaming with pulses of blue energy. Inside the control chamber, Captain Miller felt as if his senses had expanded beyond his body. He could feel the ship responding to his thoughts, showing him information without the need for screens or displays. Lieutenant Grace Taylor's fighter jet approached a section of the massive ship that had just transformed into what appeared to be a landing bay. Captain Miller, are you sure about this? She asked over the radio as she carefully guided her F-35 toward the opening. The ship wants you here, Miller replied, surprised by his own certainty. I don't fully understand it, but I know it's true. As Taylor's jet settled onto the deck of the landing bay, the opening sealed behind her. She climbed out of her cockpit, hand resting nervously on her sidearm as she studied the strange environment. The walls pulsed with the same blue light that ran throughout the ship, and the air smelled like the ocean after a storm. A doorway formed in the wall ahead of her, and Taylor cautiously stepped through it. Corridors seemed to create themselves as she walked, leading her directly to the control chamber where Miller sat. Welcome aboard, Lieutenant, Miller said without turning around. His eyes had a faint blue glow that matched the ship's interior lighting. Taylor took in the organic-looking bridge with wide eyes. What is this thing, Captain? It's called the Leviathan. It's an ancient guardian vessel, created to protect developing worlds from conquest. Miller turned to look at her. And right now we're Earth's only hope against the Dominion fleet. A voice came through the ship's communication system. Captain Miller, this is Dr. Martinez. Our satellite network shows the Dominion redeploying their forces. They're moving to intercept you. Good, Miller said. That means they're focused on us instead of the cities. Sir, Taylor said, studying what appeared to be a tactical display that had formed in the air beside her. I count over 50 ships on an intercept course. Miller nodded. Lieutenant, there's another control station forming to your right. The ship seems to want you to handle tactical operations. Taylor hesitated for only a moment before sitting in the organic chair that had emerged from the floor. Like Miller's, It adjusted to fit her perfectly. The moment she settled in, information flooded her mind. Weapon systems unlike anything humans had conceived. Defensive capabilities that seemed to bend the laws of physics. "This is incredible," she whispered. "Captain, we have weapons that could actually hurt them." Miller focused his thoughts, and the Leviathan accelerated toward the approaching Dominion vessels. "Then let's show them Earth isn't as defenseless as they thought." In the Pentagon Command Center, Commander Kelly and his team watched in amazement as the mysterious Earth vessel rapidly approached the Dominion fleet. "What the hell is that thing?" one of the officers asked. Kelly shook his head. "Classified project. Beyond that, I know as little as you do." On the main screen, they could see dozens of Dominion ships breaking formation, moving to surround the Leviathan. Beams of green energy lanced out from the alien vessels, striking the Earthship directly. "Direct hits," someone called out. But, to everyone's surprise, the energy beams seemed to be absorbed into the Leviathan's hull, causing the blue patterns to glow more intensely. "It's feeding on their attacks," Kelly murmured. On the Dominion flagship, Supreme Commander Vexhal watched with growing concern as their initial assault failed to damage the Earth vessel. "Impossible," he hissed. "Increase power to all weapons. Launch." Fighter squadrons. Hundreds of smaller Dominion craft poured from the larger ships, swarming toward the Leviathan like angry insects. Inside the Earth vessel, Taylor felt the ship communicating tactical options to her mind. "Captain, I have control of the defensive systems," she said. "The ship is suggesting we use something called gravitic pulse against the fighter swarms." Miller nodded. "Do it." Taylor focused her thoughts on the suggested weapon. A deep hum resonated through the Leviathan, and then a wave of invisible force expanded outward in all directions. Where it passed, the Dominion fighters simply crumpled like paper toys, their remains spiraling away into space. "My God," Taylor breathed. Miller didn't have time to be amazed. The Leviathan was showing him a course that would take them directly toward the largest Dominion vessel, the flagship. "We're going after their commander," he told Taylor. "The ship says if we can take out their leadership, it might force them to retreat." The Leviathan accelerated, moving with impossible speed and agility for a vessel its size. It weaved between enemy ships, absorbing or evading their attacks while firing precise counterstrikes that left Dominion vessels crippled in its wake. Dr. Martinez and her team watched the battle from their facility monitors. The data streaming back from the Leviathan showed it was growing stronger with each passing minute. "It's like it's remembering what it was designed to do," she said to Admiral Wright, who had joined them in the control room. "The more it fights, the more systems come online." Wright nodded grimly. "Let's hope it remembers quickly enough. Earth is still vulnerable." As if to emphasize his point, reports came in of Dominion ships bombarding military bases in Europe and Asia. The attacks were precisely targeted, destroying Earth's conventional defense capabilities. Aboard the Leviathan, Miller and Taylor worked, in perfect synchronization with the ship and each other. The vessel responded to their thoughts faster than any verbal command could be given, creating a fighting unit unlike anything either human had experienced. "We're approaching the flagship," Miller said. "Prepare main weapons." The Dominion flagship was enormous, at least 5 times the size of the Leviathan. Its black hull bristled with weapon emplacements that all turned toward the approaching Earth vessel. On its command deck, Vexhal watched the tactical display with growing rage and fear. "All batteries focus fire! Destroy that abomination!" The flagship unleashed a barrage of energy beams so intense that they briefly outshone the sun. The Leviathan absorbed the first few strikes, but the sheer power began to overwhelm its defenses. The ship shuddered, and warning signals flashed through Miller's mind. "Our shields can't take much more of this," Taylor reported, wincing as feedback from the ship's pain reached her through their connection. Miller searched desperately through the information the ship was feeding him, looking for something, anything, that could turn the tide. Suddenly he found it, a weapon system that had remained dormant until now. "I have something," he told Taylor, "but the ship says it will use nearly all our remaining power. We'll be vulnerable afterward." Taylor nodded. If we don't use it, we're dead anyway. Miller focused his entire will on activating the weapon. The blue energy flowing through the Leviathan's hull began to concentrate at its front, forming a glowing sphere of incredible power. "What is that?" Vexhal demanded, staring at the readings on his display. "Evasive maneuvers, move us away now." The massive flagship began to turn, but it was too slow. The Leviathan released its energy in a focused beam that struck the Dominion vessel directly at its center. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, space itself appeared to fold around the impact point. A significant portion of the flagship collapsed inward, crushed by forces that defied conventional physics. The Dominion vessel listed to one side, its engines failing and weapons going dark. The remaining alien ships paused their attack as if shocked by what they had witnessed. Inside the critically damaged flagship, Vexahal pulled himself from the wreckage of his command station. Half of his bridge crew were dead, and systems were failing throughout the ship. "Open a communication channel to that vessel," he ordered, green blood flowing from a gash on his face. "Supreme Commander, they are hailing us," his communication officer reported. The main view screen flickered to life, showing Miller in the Leviathan's control chamber, his eyes still glowing with the ship's energy. "This is Captain Ethan Miller, of Earth. Your fleet has been defeated, Supreme Commander. Withdraw your forces immediately, or we will be forced to destroy you completely." Vexhal stared at the human with a mixture of hatred and new respect. "This is not over, Earth creature. You have won a battle, not the war. The Dominion does not forget. Neither does the Leviathan," Miller replied. "Consider this your only warning." The communication ended, and across Earth's skies, the Dominion ships began to retreat, moving away from the planet and back toward deep space. In the Pentagon, cheers erupted as monitors showed the alien fleet withdrawing. Commander Kelly slumped in his chair, relief washing over him like a physical wave. "They're really leaving," someone said in disbelief. Kelly shook his head. "For now, but something tells me they'll be back." Aboard the Leviathan, Miller felt the ship's energy levels dropping dangerously low. Systems were shutting down to preserve core functions. "We need to land," he told Taylor. "The ship needs time to recover." As the Leviathan began its descent back to Earth, Miller couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of a much larger conflict. The ship had shared glimpses of its knowledge with him, enough to know that the galaxy was far more dangerous than humanity had ever imagined. But now at least Earth had a guardian, and Captain Ethan Miller was determined to be worthy of the trust the ancient vessel had placed in him. 3 days after the battle, the Leviathan rested in a massive new facility built hastily into the side of a mountain in Colorado. The ship's energy levels had slowly begun to recover, the blue patterns on its hull growing brighter with each passing hour. Captain Miller sat in a conference room with military leaders and scientists. His eyes still held traces of the blue glow from his connection with the ship. He felt strangely incomplete when away from the Leviathan, as if part of his consciousness remained with the vessel. "The Dominion fleet has retreated beyond Mars orbit," General Sam Wright said, pointing to a holographic display of the solar system. "But our deep space monitoring suggests they're regrouping, not leaving." "They won't leave," Miller said with certainty. "Not now that they know about the Leviathan," Dr. Lisa Martinez nodded. "Captain Miller is right. From what we've been able to learn, the Dominion has encountered vessels like the Leviathan before, in other star systems. They consider them a threat to their expansion." Commander Kelly frowned. "So what exactly is the Leviathan? And why was it buried on Earth for millions of years?" Lisa pulled up images on the main screen showing strange symbols they had discovered on parts of the ship's hull. "We believe it's part of an ancient defense network. The Leviathan and ships like it were created by a species that existed millions of years ago. They seeded these guardian vessels on worlds they thought had potential for intelligent life. Like planting protective trees that would grow to shield future generations," Miller added, the metaphor coming to him from his connection with the ship. Lieutenant Grace Taylor, who had been quiet during the meeting, finally spoke up. "The ship has been sharing information with us. It seems to be designed to form neural links with the species it protects. The more we work with it, the more it adapts to us. and the more we adapt to it," Miller said softly. Lisa looked at him with concern. "Your brain scans show increasing changes in your neural patterns, Captain. The connection between you and the ship is growing stronger. Is that dangerous?" General Wright asked bluntly. Before anyone could answer, an alarm sounded. A young officer rushed into the room. "Sir, we're detecting energy signatures from the lunar surface. Something's happening on the far side of the moon." The main screen switched to a feed from a military satellite. On the moon's surface, a section of the gray landscape was shifting, revealing what appeared to be a massive structure rising from beneath the dust and rock. "What the hell is that?" Commander Kelly asked. Miller stood up, his eyes wide. "It's another Guardian. The Leviathan is calling to it." In the facility's medical wing, Doug Russell sat beside the bed of Dr. Noah Peterson. Peterson had been injured during the Leviathan's hasty launch, suffering a concussion when equipment had fallen. During the ship's ascent, "You're saying the Leviathan is alive? Actually sentient?" Peterson asked, struggling to sit up in his bed. Russell nodded. "Sort of. Miller describes it as semi-sentient until it forms a neural link with a compatible host. Then it becomes more like a partner than a tool." Peterson's eyes widened. "And now there's another one on the moon?" "Apparently. Martinez thinks the Leviathan has been sending out some kind of activation signal since the battle. There could be more of these things scattered throughout the solar system." Their conversation was interrupted when the building shook slightly. Warning lights flashed in the corridor outside. "What was that?" Peterson asked. Russell moved to the window and looked up at the sky. "Oh my God." In the distance, blue light streaked across the heavens as the Leviathan rose from its mountain hangar without authorization. It accelerated upward, heading toward space. In the command center, chaos erupted as technicians tried to understand what was happening. "Who authorized launch?" General Wright demanded. "No one, sir," a technician replied. "The ship activated on its own." Lisa checked the readings on her tablet. "It's not entirely on its own. Captain Miller and Lieutenant Taylor are aboard. They entered the ship 20 minutes ago for what was supposed to be a routine systems check. Get them on comms now." Wright ordered. Inside the Leviathan's control chamber, Miller and Taylor sat at their stations, their eyes glowing bright blue as the ship rushed toward the moon. "Captain Miller, this is General Wright. Return to base immediately." "That's an order." Miller blinked as if coming out of a trance. "Sorry, General, that's not possible." "Explain yourself, Captain." "The Leviathan is responding to a distress call from the Lunar Guardian. The Dominion has found it. We have to protect it until it fully activates." Taylor's voice joined in. "Sir, we're picking up multiple Dominion ships near the lunar surface. They're attacking the emerging Guardian vessel," Wright cursed. "All available space forces deploy to lunar orbit. Provide support for the Leviathan." The Leviathan reached the moon in minutes, moving at speeds that defied conventional physics. As it approached lunar orbit, its sensors detected 6 Dominion warships bombarding the half-exposed Guardian vessel with energy weapons. "They're trying to destroy it before it can fully activate," Miller said, the knowledge coming directly from his link with the ship. Taylor nodded, already accessing the tactical systems. "Weapons ready, Captain." "Target the lead vessel," Miller ordered. "Let's get their attention." The Leviathan fired a focused beam of blue energy that sliced through one of the Dominion ships, cutting it in half. The explosion lit up the lunar sky, visible even from Earth. The remaining Dominion ships immediately broke off their attack on the emerging Guardian and turned toward the Leviathan. "We have their attention," Taylor reported. "All enemy vessels targeting us." Miller guided the ship into a defensive position between the Dominion fleet and the Lunar Guardian. "How long until it's fully activated?" The information flowed into his mind from the Leviathan. 17 minutes. We need to hold them off." The Dominion opened fire, their green energy beams striking the Leviathan from multiple angles. The ship's defenses held, but Miller could feel the strain through their connection. "We can't take this for 17 minutes, Taylor warned. Suddenly, Miller had an idea. "The ship is showing me something. A way to extend our defensive field to cover the Lunar Guardian. That would leave us vulnerable. Taylor pointed out. Miller nodded. Yes, but it might buy enough time. He made his decision. Divert power from weapons to extend the defensive field. The blue glow surrounding the Leviathan stretched outward, expanding until it covered both vessels. The Dominion attacks now struck this larger field, which flickered dangerously with each hit. Field integrity at 60% and dropping, Taylor reported. 12 minutes remaining until the Lunar Guardian activates. On the Dominion command ship, a newly promoted commander named Krex watched the battle with growing frustration. The humans are protecting the second Guardian, he hissed to his officers. Increase weapon power. We cannot allow another of these abominations to activate. The Dominion ships intensified their assault. On the Leviathan, warning signals flashed through Miller's mind. Defensive field at 30%, Taylor called out. 8 minutes remaining. Miller searched desperately for options. The Leviathan was communicating possibilities, but none seemed viable with their reduced power levels. Earth forces approaching, Taylor suddenly announced. 3 carrier groups with fighter escorts. Earth's small fleet of space-capable vessels appeared at the edge of lunar orbit. Though primitive compared to the Dominion technology, they immediately opened fire, their missiles and energy weapons striking the alien ships from behind. They're dividing the Dominion's attention, Miller realized. Field integrity stabilizing at 25%. 4 minutes remaining. The lunar surface below them continued to shift as more of the second Guardian vessel emerged. It was enormous, possibly even larger than the Leviathan, with a different configuration, but similar organic mechanical design. 2 minutes, Taylor counted down. The Dominion ships pressed their attack with increased desperation, concentrating all fire on a single point of the defensive field. Field breach imminent, Taylor warned. Miller felt the Leviathan's concern, not for itself, but for its human crew. The ship wants to eject us to safety. Taylor shook her head firmly. We stay. Just as the defensive field began to collapse, a pulse of bright white energy erupted from the Lunar Guardian. It washed over the battlefield, temporarily disrupting all systems. When Miller's vision cleared, he saw that the Lunar Guardian had fully emerged. It hovered above the moon's surface, its hull gleaming silver-white in contrast to the Leviathan's darker coloration. It's online, he whispered. The Lunar Guardian, the behemoth as the name appeared in Miller's mind, unleashed its weapons on the Dominion fleet. Blinding beams of white energy lanced out, striking each enemy vessel with perfect precision. Where they hit, the Dominion ships simply came apart, their molecular bonds apparently severed. In less than 30 seconds, the entire Dominion attack force was reduced to drifting debris. As Earth's vessels approached cautiously, the behemoth turned its attention to the Leviathan. Miller felt a communication passing between the 2 Guardian ships, ancient protocols being exchanged, recognition occurring. Miller nodded, understanding the importance of this moment. Tell Earth Command we've just doubled our defensive capability. 2 weeks after the awakening of the behemoth, Earth had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The knowledge that humanity was not alone in the universe, and that an ancient force had deemed them worthy of protection, had united countries in unprecedented cooperation. Captain Miller stood at the observation window of the new International Guardian Command Center, watching as teams of scientists and engineers worked with the Leviathan. The massive ship rested in a specially built hangar, its hull pulsing with calm blue light. Miller could feel its presence in his mind even from this distance like a constant companion. Lieutenant Taylor approached, carrying 2 cups of coffee. She handed one to Miller. The neural integration team is ready for us, she said. They've selected the first candidates to link with the behemoth. Miller nodded. How many? 5. All military pilots with exceptional psychological profiles. Taylor sipped her coffee. They're nervous. I told them what to expect, but nothing can really prepare you for it, Miller finished. The bond he shared with the Leviathan had grown stronger each day. His dreams were filled with stars and distant worlds. Sometimes he found himself thinking in concepts that had no words in human languages. Commander Kelly entered the observation room. Captain Lieutenant, the Security Council is assembled and waiting for your briefing. Miller followed Kelly to the command center's main conference room. Representatives from 12 nations sat around a large table, with more joining via secure video links. Dr. Lisa Martinez was already there, standing beside a holographic display of the solar system. Captain Miller, please continue your report, said the Secretary General of the United Nations, a tall woman with silver hair. Miller stepped forward. As you know, the behemoth has established neural links with 3 of the 5 candidates. The process is going smoothly. Once complete, the Lunar Guardian will be fully operational under human guidance. And the information about other Guardians? Asked the Chinese representative. The Leviathan has identified 7 more locations within our solar system where Guardians were seated, Miller replied. 3 in the asteroid belt, 1 on Mars, 1 on Titan, and 2 in the Kuiper belt. We believe they're in various stages of dormancy. Lisa added, based on the pattern we've observed, they were positioned to create a defensive perimeter around Earth. The ancient species that created them clearly saw something special in our planet's potential. What about the Dominion? The Russian representative asked. Have we detected any movement from their fleet? Commander Kelly brought up a new tactical display. They've withdrawn to the orbit of Saturn, but they haven't left the solar system. Our best assessment is that they're waiting for reinforcements. How much time do we have? Asked the American president. Miller shared a glance with Taylor before answering. Based on what the Leviathan has shared about Dominion capabilities, between 3 and 6 months before their main fleet arrives. But that's enough time to awaken at least 3 more Guardians. Which brings us to the Mars mission, Lisa said. The Guardian there appears to be the next most accessible. Captain Miller and Lieutenant Taylor will lead the expedition aboard, the Leviathan, with the behemoth providing defense for Earth in their absence. As the meeting continued, Doug Russell and Dr. Noah Peterson worked in the engineering lab several levels below. They had been studying samples of the Leviathan's hull, trying to understand the impossible material that could shift between solid and liquid states. It's responding to the electrical patterns from the neural array, Peterson said, watching, as the small sample rippled when exposed to specific frequencies. Almost like muscle tissue responding to nerve impulses. Russell nodded. The more we learn about these Guardians, the more I think ship is the wrong word for them. They're more like organisms. Incredibly advanced technological organisms. With a purpose hardwired into their very existence, Peterson added, protect developing intelligent life. Their work was interrupted by a facility-wide announcement. All personnel, be advised. We are detecting unusual activity from the Leviathan. All non-essential staff please evacuate Hangar Bay 2 immediately. Russell and Peterson rushed to the observation deck overlooking the Leviathan's hangar. The ship's hull was pulsing with bright blue light in patterns they hadn't seen before. Miller and Taylor arrived moments later, their eyes already glowing blue from their connection with the ship. What's happening? Russell asked. It's receiving a transmission, Miller said, his voice distant as if part of his mind was elsewhere. From deep space. Another Guardian, much farther away. On the main display screens, a star map appeared, showing a point of light many light years from Earth. That's the Proxima Centauri system, Lisa said, quickly checking the coordinates. Miller nodded. The Guardian there has been active for centuries, protecting another developing civilization. It's warning us. The Dominion fleet heading to Earth is larger than we thought, much larger. The mood in the command center grew tense as the implications sank in. How can we possibly face an even larger fleet? Commander Kelly asked. Even with all the Guardians in our system awakened, Miller's expression changed as new information flowed into his mind. We don't have to face them alone. The Leviathan says the Guardian network extends throughout this arm of the galaxy. Hundreds of Guardians protecting dozens of developing civilizations. Some more advanced than us. An alliance, Taylor said, the same realization dawning on her through her own connection. The Guardians were never meant to work in isolation, Miller continued. They're part of a network, a system designed to bring developing species together when they face threats like the Dominion. Lisa looked amazed. The ancient race that created them, they weren't just leaving us protectors. They were ensuring that when we reached the stars, we wouldn't be alone. In the days that followed, the Leviathan and Behemoth began transmitting signals to the distant Guardians. Earth scientists worked to understand the faster-than-light communication technology, while military leaders prepared for the coming conflict. 1 month later, Captain Miller stood on the bridge of the Leviathan as it approached Mars. Behind them, a fleet of Earth's newly built ships followed, vessels that incorporated some of the technology humans had begun to learn from the Guardians. Approaching Mars orbit, Taylor reported from the tactical station. Sensors are detecting the Guardian's energy signature beneath the surface of Olympus Mons. Miller nodded, feeling the Leviathan's anticipation. Begin the awakening sequence. The Leviathan descended toward the massive Martian volcano, its sensors penetrating deep beneath the surface to where another Guardian had waited patiently for millions of years. As they approached, the ground began to tremble. Multiple contacts, Taylor suddenly called out. Dominion ships on approach from the outer system. Miller checked the tactical display. A small fleet of Dominion vessels was rushing toward Mars, clearly intent on preventing another Guardian from awakening. They're early, he said grimly. Defense positions. Protect the awakening site at all costs. As the Earth fleet moved to intercept the Dominion ships, Miller felt something new through his connection with the Leviathan, a distant presence growing stronger. Not from Mars, but from beyond the solar system. We have incoming ships, Taylor reported, her voice filled with wonder. But they're not Dominion. New vessels appeared on their sensors, designs unlike anything they had seen before, but each one accompanied by the unmistakable energy signature of a Guardian. The Alliance, Miller said, a smile spreading across his face. They're here. Through the Leviathan, Miller received a transmission from the lead ship of the new fleet. The Guardian it housed had bonded with a species from a planet circling Tau Ceti. They had faced the Dominion before and had come to stand with Earth. As more allies arrived, some looking almost human, others wildly different, Miller understood what the Leviathan had been trying to show him all along. The Guardians weren't just weapons or shields. They were bridges, connecting species that might otherwise have fought each other, creating a community of civilizations that stood together against those who would conquer and destroy. The Dominion had conquered many stars in their long history. They had subjugated thousands of worlds and thought themselves invincible, but they had never understood the true purpose of the Guardians they occasionally encountered and hastily destroyed. They had never realized they were fighting against the legacy of a species far older and wiser than themselves, a species that had seeded the galaxy not with weapons, but with the foundations of a future alliance that would one day stand against any who threatened the rich diversity of intelligent life. As the Martian Guardian began to rise from its ancient resting place, Miller watched the Allied ships moving into formation alongside Earth's vessels. He felt the Leviathan's satisfaction and, somewhere deep in the ship's ancient memories, the approval of those who had created it eons ago. Humanity had been alone, until they weren't. They had been vulnerable until they found their protector. They had been one world until they became part of something greater, and the Dominion, who had conquered so many stars, would soon learn that their unstoppable fleet had finally met its match in the Guardians of Earth and their newfound allies across the stars.